You're listening to the Cinemental podcast.
Shall we begin?
Welcome back to the Cinemental podcast, where we discuss mental health themes from cinema, television, and popular culture. I'm Jeffrey Jones, and I'm a filmmaker and professor, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother, Dr. Joshua Jones, who, as well as being the full house of doctors, is a general and forensic psychiatrist.
That's right, Jeff. I am the entire Tanner family, all wrapped up into one.
Oh, there you go. A little full house, full house reference. I like it. Well, we want you to start your week off right with our podcast. So we drop a new episode every Monday morning at 9 a.m. And we also drop a supplemental episode on Wednesdays, which you're listening to now, which is usually a deeper dive into a topic that came up in the film. And so today we are going to talk about gambling addiction. We covered Rounders on Monday. We covered all things gambling. But today we're going to talk about specifically gambling addiction, and we'll talk a little bit more about the psychology of poker as well. I am a poker player. It's not how I make most of my money, but I have made quite a lot of money playing poker. So I'm going to talk with Josh about, some of my experiences. Is gambling addiction different than other addictions? And if so, why?
It is, Jeff. And by the way, we don't actually use the word addiction in science anymore. Yeah, okay. We don't use it anymore. We talk about it as a disorder.
Why?
Addiction carries with it a whole bunch of non-scientific connotations.
Such as?
Well, social stigma is one of them.
Right.
And the addiction of you can't pull away from it is what it brings up in people's minds. And it's just more complicated than that.
Okay.
So we use use disorders when we're talking about chemicals, when we're talking about drugs, and then just disorders when we're talking about gambling.
Give me the definition of a disorder.
As we've talked about many times, A disorder is a pattern of symptoms that impacts your functioning in one or more spheres. So
in a negative way.
Yeah, in a negative way. It impacts your ability to hold a job, it impacts your ability to form relationships, etc. So that's, you can have a whole bunch of behaviors. You can gamble.
Right.
But as long as it doesn't negatively impact you in one or more spheres of your existence, it's not a disorder. I will use the term addiction because it is so colloquially known. But in the scientific world, it's just not something we use anymore. You asked me, is gambling addiction different than other addictions? If we're talking about chemical dependency, if we're talking about substance use disorders, then yes, it is. Because we're talking about a behavior as opposed to a chemical substance.
Okay.
And those are the defined use disorders or addictions in the DSM-5, for instance.
Okay.
They define a whole bunch of different substance use disorders: cannabis use disorder, opiate use disorder, stimulant use disorder, and then gambling disorder.
Okay, real quick. Would overeaters be the same because they're consuming something that they're chemically dependent on? So that would still be more in the drug, alcohol kind of category than it would be gambling.
Such a great question, Jeff. And we're still teasing this out scientifically. Gambling disorder is the only specifically defined behavioral disorder in the DSM-5. What that means in the DSM-5, to remind our listeners, is the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual for Mental Illness. It is a consensus document based on
elite
studies.
Group of doctors got together. The ninjas of doctors got together and put this book together.
Yeah, you're smirking about that, but you're not wrong.
No, I love that. I just love the idea that there's this elite group of mental health professionals putting this thing together. I love that. I want to make a movie or a TV show about an elite group.
Based on the best scientific evidence that's available at the time.
Right.
And we've got the best scientific evidence available that gambling disorder is a real thing.
Right.
As opposed to other behavioral disorders, we're pretty sure that there's addictive qualities to compulsive exercising, people who are addicted to overeating, sex addiction, other behaviors where we're pretty sure that there's addictive qualities to them. And why wouldn't there be? Because they impact the dopaminergic system.
Right.
And we know that that's where, reward and therefore addiction comes from. We just don't have the scientific evidence yet. We might not ever to say, yep, that is a full-fledged disorder, a full-fledged condition.
Right.
Gambling disorder, the evidence is pretty clear that in many ways that compulsive behavior mimics or is very similar to the craving that comes with substances as well.
So let's talk about what happens then as someone gambles.
Let's go back to a concept we talked about in the first episode.
Yep. Intermittent fasting.
No. Intermittent reinforcement, Jeff.
Intermittent windshield wipers.
Okay. Intermittent reinforcement, Jeff.
Right.
Yeah. And the intermittent reinforcement of getting a reward for doing a task and not knowing exactly when you're going to get that reward is more reinforcing or more rewarding than if you get the reward every single time. Okay, so you're playing hands of poker. You don't win every time. You win some of the times. You get a burst of dopamine. You get a rush when you win. When you don't, you're okay, I'm fine, but I'm looking for that next dopaminergic rush. And that's what keeps people engaged in gambling.
And so this is based on interviews with gambling addicts, right?
Yes, it's based on interviews with gambling addicts. It's based on some more kind of bench behavioral science than that as well. Going all the way back to rats. You can train rats to hit a button, hit a lever, and they will get a reinforcement. If they hit a lever, they will get a reward. What we found is that if they hit a lever and they get a reward every time, after a pretty short amount of time, they get bored and they stop hitting that lever. If it's not, for instance, an addictive substance like cocaine, if they get cocaine every time, they will keep hitting it until they die.
Sure.
But for instance, let's just say it's, a food or some other reward. If they get it every time, they get bored after a bit.
Right.
But if you reduce the amount of time that they get that reward and you randomize it, they will keep hitting that button forever.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that because you will actually see that play out with poker as well, or with gambling. Specifically with poker, though, where you start playing and usually people play at what's known as a 1-3 table. So your blinds are $1 and $3. You get all the things you're talking about, the intermittent reinforcement. But if you win so many times in a row where you've kind of like beaten that game, you get bored because even though in individual play there might be some intermittency, you know that you're going to win. And so people go up to the 5-10 game and then they go up to the 10-20 game. And so they continue to rise up where they're putting more money on the line because they know that they're going to win. And so they need a deeper rush. That often happens with poker players. It's the same thing you're talking about, just in a broader context.
So that's the underpinnings of gambling. That in of itself isn't disordered behavior, right? People enjoy that. It's fine. I'm done. I walk away. I lost enough. Or, hey, my time's up. I'm going to go. Where it becomes a disorder is when it impacts, as we said, their functioning, but really with some key features, such as their inability to control their gambling, despite mounting losses, their preoccupation with gambling activities, the need to gamble with increasing amounts of money to get the same excitement, and continued gambling despite negative consequences to their relationships, work, or financial stability.
Right.
You can hear a lot of those same things, a lot of the same criteria are what we apply to folks who are having difficulty with substances as well.
Because I hear what you said earlier about like the difference in not using the term addiction and using the term disorder instead. And I'm thinking about, could someone be a gambling addict, but it not affect them in a negative way? And I think that is possible. But I know some gambling addicts. I know some people who go to GA, and they would tell me, I don't stop playing until I lose.
Until you can't play anymore.
And so it might be possible to be a really well-disciplined gambling addict and not have it cross over into a disorder, but it's probably really, really rare.
I can't make that crossover of the Venn diagram work in my head. You and I always want to hedge our bets and say, well, I'm not going to say something that's 100% true, but you can't have all the behaviors of a gambling addict and not be a gambling addict.
The only way I could think of it is if you're addicted to playing and you're so good at it and you're thinking about it all the time and you play and you're so obsessed with it that your obsession hurts your life in other spheres. You could still be a winning poker player, but still have the disorder.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. There are lots of people who are winning poker players and gambling addicts.
Well, that's what I just said. That was my whole point. Yeah.
Sorry. I wasn't hearing you right.
Yeah.
That one's on me, Jeff.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, it's so interesting, Josh, to talk about this because like from a poker player standpoint, there's so many different reasons why people play, and there's so many different reasons why I like it and different ways that I get dopamine hits that I don't think are just equivalent to you hit a button and you get a reward. One, I have a theory that if you want to be a high-level negotiator at any level, at any business, you should study poker. You can learn really high-level negotiation skills in playing poker and seeing what people's weak spots are, how to exploit weakness, looking for tells. There's so much about the human condition that you can learn through poker because you're putting people in really uncomfortable positions. And I find that part of it absolutely fascinating. Is that healthy or not? I don't know, but that's part of it that I love. I just love looking at people being really uncomfortable and sort of put to the test.
Yeah, for sure, Jeff. Look, playing poker is incredibly complicated and complex social interaction with other people.
Right.
I am by no means saying that is akin to hitting the lever and getting the reward. We do, scientists do experiments like that to try to cut out all the other clutter and get down to base principles. So all the interactions that you're having, all the things you're learning, all the things you're seeing like that, they are also having an impact on your brain, on your behavior. They're modifying the dopaminergic surge that you're getting. You could make up something, for instance, in which your parent just died, and then you go to a poker game. That's going to modify how much the dopamine impacts you in that moment. Does it blunt it? Does it heighten it? Probably individualized, but it's going to be different because it is such a complex behavioral package of sitting at a poker table and playing with folks. There's also something about set and setting that plays into how much the dopamine affects your brain.
Oh, sure.
If you are playing, a high-stakes poker game at the World Series of Poker, you are making different decisions and the chemicals in your brain are having different impacts than if you are playing a four-hand poker game at somebody's card table in their garage on a hot summer night.
Yeah, I get super nervous when I go into tournaments, which is really funny because there's no reason to be nervous. And I always do really well at tournaments. I had a run where I took third, second, first, and first because tournaments you need a fair amount of luck to win in tournaments. So it was one heck of a run.
We call that a reverse Fibonacci.
The last poker tournament I played in, by the way, I got knocked out it was one of the very first people, and Marcia Brady knocked me out. It was one of those hands
fantastic.
I know. It was one of those hands where I went all in thinking I had the best hand. And I did. I was 66% to win. And she just, caught the card that she needed. But I was like, Marcia. And I can't remember which Marcia for those still listening. But it was, one of the Marcias. And it just wasn't feeling it that day. So I was like, I'm out. I'm done. But yeah, Marcia Brady put me out of a poker tournament.
Oh, that is just wonderful. That's just a wonderful Jeff Jones fact.
There you go. Josh, I want your just opinion on this because I do think that it's I want to help people also just understand poker because I know there's a lot of people that just I don't get it. For me, I love the high level analysis. I love the, what I learned about negotiation from it. The other thing I love about it is as close to fighting to the death as you can get without fighting each other. I know you're looking at me like I'm crazy. When I sit down on Poker Player and when my friends sit down on Poker Player, we are trying to destroy the other person and we don't care about their feelings and we just want all of their money. And even though we're best friends after the game, we are trying to gut them like a pig and take all their money. And that's sort of the mentality you have as you're playing. And there's something really great about that is it is just pure mental aggression. And that's why people who come with $100 and they're like, oh, you know what? I'm just here for the fun. And if I lose $100, I do it in the name of fun. You're going to lose that $100 because there are, sharks at the table. But that's what we mean when we say sharks. We really are trying to eat each other. And this reminds me of my friend. I'm going to name him by name because it's fun. My friend Matt Kennedy. I remember, he was a fellow rounders lover, and so we started playing cards. And he lost a few nights in a row, and he was like, Jeff, it was a line from the movie, sharks don't eat each other. I thought that sharks didn't eat each other. I was like, they don't, Matt.
So what is that? So what's the lesson there, Jeff? That
he was the sucker.
Yeah. So if you can't pick out the sucker,
spot the sucker at the table, you're the sucker. And he was like, oh.
Look, Jeff, there's more things to say about gambling disorder. I mean, if you have gambling disorder, there are things to do about it. Many of the same treatments that we can use for chemical dependency, you can use for gambling disorder as well. So there are Gamblers Anonymous, which you mentioned,
right?
Which you mentioned already. Cognitive behavioral therapy can be very helpful for folks who are trying to break the cycle in their own brain of why they gamble. There's not a lot of great medications out there for it, but medication called naltrexone, which has been used to block some chemicals in the brain that might be implicated in the dopaminergic pathway, the reinforcement pathway, might be beneficial to folks. The point is that if you have a problem, there is help available.
How do you seek that help?
Every state has a Gamblers Anonymous hotline or a gambling hotline. These are more in people's minds because gambling is more prevalent than ever. The regulations in most states have been relaxed over the last several years. So there's much more sports gambling. There are things called prop bets that are much more easy to access via apps or other online resources. And we're starting to see what a big problem this is, especially for Gen Z who haven't been raised in a culture where, gambling is kind of like, maybe there's some problems with it. They're just like, gambling's great. Do it on your app. Do it from your bed. Do it wherever you can.
Yeah, you got Jamie Foxx, coming on and doing gambling. You got these massive celebrities now who are everyday people, everyday names, saying, yeah, sports bets are great, $100 off your first bet.
There's a price to pay for that.
You know this about me. I used to work in a casino. I worked as a valet for a couple of years, and then I worked as a key man. And what a key man does is you pay out money to slot machine winners. They don't have $10,000 in a slot machine. You win a certain amount, someone comes over and says, hey, let me walk you to the cage, we'll get you paid. Great job. Because anytime someone saw me, they were in a good mood. So, it was a great job for me. But what I thought was really interesting about working in the casino was they had signs everywhere saying, if you have a problem, here's the resources, as you mentioned. And we were taught, hey, if you see that somebody has a problem, say something. No one ever did. And I don't think it's really appropriate to ask that of casino employees because we're not psychiatrists. How in the world is a regular everyday person supposed to know if another person has a gambling problem? I was in the high roller room for a while where people were betting $1,000 a roll on slot machine. I had to pay out $100,000 to somebody who won. And I had 16 people standing around me from the casino watching me count it out because you can't just, you don't just put it through the counter. A human being has to do it. It's nerve-wracking. But someone betting $1,000 a hand, I don't have the knowledge to say that person shouldn't be gambling.
Yeah. Jeff, have you seen the movie Molly's Game?
Yeah, of course.
In Molly's Game, there's a pretty important scene in which one of her customers is clearly having, a breakdown. He seems very
going
anxious.
On tilt. Yeah,
he's going on tilt. And she approaches him about that. I think, again, that's Hollywoodized. Those are some of the signs, lots of anxiety, people going back, people saying, oh, I don't have this to gamble. Oh, I shouldn't be doing this, vocalizations like that. You're right. It's probably very hard to pick out. If people are good at masking it, they might not know themselves. But I mean, I think it's at least good that they paid lip service or told you, if you see something, say something. It's hard to pick that out. It's hard to pick out, even as a trained psychiatrist, it's hard for me to pick out just on a day-to-day basis, somebody who might be struggling with a chemical dependency issue.
Right. I mean, anybody who loses is negatively impacted. That doesn't mean they have a disorder.
Correct.
But you lose when you gamble, you're negatively impacted.
Yeah, correct.
I mean, I've had nights where I lost $400, $500. I don't think that that's a disorder. I came back next week, won $1,000.
Well, and if it doesn't impact you, if you've got that, if you've budgeted that, I could lose 500 and that's not a big deal. I mean, that's not a disorder. That's a choice. You're making a choice to gamble. It's not a disorder.
All right, Josh, I think other things you want to say about gambling addiction?
Only to reinforce to people that if you've got a problem, there's help. Gambling hotlines exist in almost every state. Gamblers Anonymous is a thing, and it has helped a lot of people.
Okay, great. Let's do the top 5 list, Josh.
Yeah, Jeff, now you've got the top 5 list this week, right?
We're doing gambling this week. So I thought it'd be interesting to look at the top 5 hands from film that are the most unlikely.
Sure.
Just based on the odds, what are the most ridiculous hands ever in film and television? Because the problem with making a poker movie is you need to show people what they know, which is like the royal flush. You have to show these big hands that people like know. So you get a lot of these completely ridiculous hands that win in the end. And it's like, it's not very impressive if you win with the royal flush. You just had the best possible hand, you know?
Sure.
At the end of rounders, he wins with a straight to the 10. Which is not an amazing hand, but that's what he wins with. That's more what it's like to be a really great poker player, is to set somebody up, hide the fact that you have it, and you win with the straight to the 10. These are the poker hands that are statistically impossible.
Okay, all right.
But Jeff, we did it for film purposes.
Jeff, do you have any honorable mentions here?
I do. I have one honorable mention because it comes from rounders. And it's the hand where Mike first loses. He's got 9s full of aces. Teddy KGB's got aces full of 9s. And so he loses. That's a 1 in 25,000 chance of that happening. Josh, I've seen it countless times. I've seen it so many times in my life, but the odds of it happening are only 1 in 25,000, as odd as that is.
Wait. So you're saying a full house, you said a full house 9s over aces?
Yeah.
And then he had aces over 9s? How can that
Correct.
be? That means there's five of each card in the deck.
No, the way that Texas Hold'em works is there's 5 community cards.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Yep. Jeff, give me number 5.
So number 5 comes from The Sting, 1973. The hand Newman, and this is why it's only number 5, Newman cheats into 4 jacks against 4 9s. Cheating aside, 2 quads clashing is about 1 in 30,000. So that's our number 5. Obviously, it's a little different because there was cheating involved, but quads over quads is a 1 in 30,000 chance.
By the way, 2 quads clashing is my new metal band name. Number 4.
Number 4 comes from The Gambler. Wow, we should have talked about The Gambler. There's a great quote in The Gambler. James Caan film, and it's odd because it's a perfect deuce to 7 low ball. And The Gambler was all about kind of what a loser this guy was. But he nails the hand 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, which is the lowest possible hand that you can have in poker. And the chances of that, the odds are roughly 1 in 100,000 that you will get that in draw poker.
Wow.
So that's our number 4. Yeah.
Okay. Number 3.
Number 3 comes from a movie that I did not particularly care for. It was called Lucky You. It was an Eric Bana and Robert Duvall film from 2007. And it's the straight flush over aces full. Hero scoops the hand, the final pot with a straight flush. Odds here, 1 in 350,000. Very unlikely. And for how good of a movie the poker was in Lucky You, they didn't need to do this.
Interesting. You say the poker was really good in that movie, and they ended it with that hand. You said the poker wasn't that great in rounders.
Correct.
But they ended it with a really good
hand.
Poker hand.
Yep.
Well portrayed poker hand.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right. Number 2.
I stand by that statement. Okay, so number 2, we're going to Maverick, little Mel Gibson.
Oh, yeah.
Mel Gibson classic. It's the royal flush for the win. This could be ranked higher because the other hands are totally ridiculous that he beats, but we sort of get the impression that they were all cheated. They were all led there. So the odds of him winning on a royal flush, especially on that draw, 1 in 650,000. So we're really starting to get up there.
All right. Then, Jeff, what is our number 1?
So the number 1, and this breaks my heart because I loved this movie. I loved it. And it comes from Casino Royale 2006, the very first Daniel Craig James Bond film. And it's the very final hand. It's the 4-way apocalypse hand. It's full house, aces over 6s versus a higher full house, aces over kings versus a straight flush, versus Bond's hand, which is a higher straight flush. Our number 2 was 1 in 650,000. This is estimated at 1 in 165 million. The odds.
Well, I mean, I guess he's just a really, really good poker player.
Yeah, and completely unnecessary. They had done a whole thing with finding Le Chiffre's tell earlier on. It was completely unnecessary to make that such a ludicrous hand. And are you a good poker player if you just have the stone cold nuts? Probably not. That's why I don't love poker hands in movies. But yeah, that's the top 5 statistically most unlikely hands in all of poker. And I pretty much just drew from movies that people know. There's a movie called A Big Hand for the Little Lady, which was in 1966. I didn't include that one. Kaleidoscope, 1966. Same sort of thing. So I picked movies that I thought people would know.
Well, I mean, according to you, no movie before 1980 was actually made. So there's
just not worth watching.
Yeah, the other thing about the Casino Royale hand is that James Bond isn't a poker player. Baccarat is his game. Everybody knows that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Ridiculous. Yeah. That's right. I forgot about that. But, they did a lot of bringing James Bond into the new era.
Sure. It's like having his martini as an icy.
Icy. Really, really shake.
Really, really cool.
Just shake it up, baby. Shake it up.
What will you have, Mr. Bond? White Claw.
Yeah. All right, so that's the top 5 list. I feel like we've put gambling in the books, Josh. I feel good. How do you feel?
Well, Jeff, odds are I feel great. I do just want to give a shout out, though, to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, who got engaged.
Thanks, as always, for watching and listening to Cinemental and our coverage of our Rounders. If you like this episode, please subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also watch clips of Cinemental on YouTube, where we'd love to hear what you would like us to cover next. You can watch my companion series, The One Thing, where I take a deeper dive into screenwriting, both available on the Large and in Charge channel on YouTube. Follow Dr. Josh Jones, America's Psychiatrist, on Blue Sky. This has been a Large and in Charge production. For Josh Jones, I am Jeff Jones, and we will see you next week.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.